Hey everybody, this is Dr. Neis. I'm here to talk about pirates. Arr! That's right, those swashbuckling crusaders who go across the seas to sink and plunder any ship that they see. Pirates are just loved in America. Why? Because sometimes it just looks like the ultimate form of freedom to where you can do what you want, take what you need, or take what you want. Yeah, it's you sail the sea with no worries whatsoever. Pirates have been known to drink plenty of rum. Ah, yummy. Go after buried treasure. Arr. Gotta love the shiny things. But everyone's like, well, where did pirates come from? Well, apparently they've been around forever. They go up and they take and attack merchant shipping, basically merchant ships that are mostly unarmed. They pack into small little fast boats, go over there, grab the ship, and overwhelm the crew, mostly just by intimidating them and say, I'm going to kill you unless you surrender. And if you don't have a gun, of course you're like, yeah, sure, take it. I like my life. Pirates are like, good, I'm glad we have an understanding. So, and as the years go by, nation states or kingdoms or whoever, any kind of nation in the past, have always granted letters of marque for privateers. Basically, a legal pirate who would go in during times of war, would attack enemy ships or enemy basically commerce raiding. And he will go and attack the enemy's merchant ships in order to affect their economy in a bad way. So we're going to touch on both because I like privateers and they're more or less pirates, and sometimes they turn into pirates, and sometimes pirates turn into privateers. So there's really no big difference. Except for a privateer, he has a couple of extra rules, while a pirate, he's like, screw the rules. So here we go. And the best part about it is America was actually more or less founded by pirates. Who would have guessed? Benjamin Franklin actually commissioned and issued letters of marque for several privateers, such as the Black Prince, the Black Princess, and a couple of other ships that went off and harassed and captured many, many British merchant ships. Also, some uppity naval experts say privateering is a very wasteful and not a good way to wage war because their main objective is to capture the enemy ships, while the Navy is like, we're just going to sink them. Don't worry about capturing them. While pirates like, but how can you make a profit if you get what they got and sell it? And therefore, it is actually a huge, huge incentive because most pirates and privateers are actually private entrepreneurs and sometimes regular Navy vessels. The majority of the time, they're privately owned. And the main thing for a pirate, the main strategy, is you get a whole bunch of guys, more guys than you need to actually run the boat, because you're going to need those guys to run a couple extra boats. And that's really where the key thing is. In modern day, off the coast of Somalia, they actually did a little study on there, and it's about an $8 billion or $16 billion worldwide economy. So they actually make money, and they took a deeper, closer look at it. And apparently, pirates in Somalia, the average pirate makes $80,000 a year. So apparently they're doing something right. Granted, it's a very high risk business because you might die or spend your life in jail. Make a lot of money, spend a lot in jail. More or less, pirates is the mafia of the seas. Yes, you might go to jail, you might die, but if I get away with it, I can just, boom, be rich. In Somalia, $80,000 actually means a lot more than that. Because last time I checked, they're really not in that great a state. But several other states do it. I mean, it's more or less illegal in the international sense for piracy, and the U.S. actually goes and attack, basically try to protect U.S. shipping from pirates. But as it turns out, everyone also outlawed privateering. Well, most nations, most regular nations, but the U.S. Never did. As it stands today, the U.S. still has the right to wage war and issue letters of marque, which is more or less saying I can still make privateers if I want to. So better watch out. And I would actually assume that if we're in a, more or less low economy, I might want to just go ahead and issue letters of marque to some guys who might need the money. I got a boat, just need stuff full of people and go get it. If you're at war, why not? I say do it. I actually tell the U.S. president, I say Obama, go ahead, or any U.S. president. I would actually uh, say it's okay to issue letters of marque so we can have privateers because our economy is not that great. Because there's a lot of people who aren't happy with it. It's a good way for some poor people, not naming any names, to get some extra dough so they can come home, be like, yay, I'm here. And more or less, you might die, of course, but it's all volunteer. I think it should be. It is. But either way, now in these days, if you want to be a privateer, write a letter to Congress, say, hey, tell them I want to be a privateer. And they're like, if you have a boat, go do it. Of course, you got to wait for the letter of marque. Because the letter of marque does make sure that you do not get charged with piracy. You get charged as an enemy combatant. Aha. So it's not technically terrorism. So you want a bunch of guys in a small, fast boat, or ship. You want it faster than the super tankers they have out there. And the thing is, you go over there, you jump on it, and you're either going to capture the ship or get its cargo. If you're in a small boat, you're probably not going to grab all of it. Or you might just grab their safe and rob the guys on the boat. You're a pirate. Life's not fair. And then you get away. Now, the thing with pirates is that you have to have multiple bases, because when you want to go and attack, you got to take it somewhere. So you go, you get the stuff, and you take it back to one of your bases, stash it, and therefore that's where like buried treasures come in because you're gonna have multiple like warehouses around. And the thing with pirates is does not technically have to be in the sea. It could also be on land. So you could have like several fast cars and rob an armored truck if you want to. You'll still be labeled a pirate, but unless the U.S. goes to war with Mexico or some other state where you can actually drive there, you probably not gonna do that right now. But just keep that in mind. That does not necessarily have to be in the sea. It could also be on land or in the air. Ooh, didn't think about that, did you? It could also be in the air, which people are like, well, why haven't we done piracy in the air? Well, there's hijackers, but hijackers are already on the plane, so they're not technically pirates. But if you were in another plane and got onto another plane, then we can work out the details later. But in the meantime, not a whole lot of people have that ability, but we're going to keep moving on. So here we are. Bunch of pirates, bunch of loot. What are you going to do with it? Well, you can sell it to another nation. You could smuggle it. You could put it on eBay. I would. I didn't know what else to do with it. I got a whole warehouse full of stuff. I put it up on eBay. Someone buy it. Highest bidder, take it. I don't want it. Just don't expect a return address. and that's another great thing because America was actually more or less the U.S. Navy relied heavily on privateers during the early days, and they went out and even though the U.S. government issued letters of marque because they were not recognized as a state till later, they were more or less pirates. And even in today's mind view, the U.S. Won't recognize certain states, so you have to go with uh, we were more or less pirates. And good thing we won because now we can say they were privateers and get away with it. The British didn't like it. Nobody actually liked it, but everyone else had privateers. So no one really worried about it. Well, of course, pirates worried about it when they got caught, which that's bad. And more or less, pirates are also very ruthless. And even though they're, you know, put Trey in a romantic sense, pirates were basically thugs in the seas, but not all of them. Some of them were actually very sophisticated. Some of them were actually former naval officers or very skilled seamen to where they were actually professional and handled it very well. And everyone's wondering, where did rum come from? Where did pirates get rum? Well, it turns out from rum is a great way to pass the time on a boat because when you're sailing everywhere, you're going to get bored. And if you want to be able to last with that, you basically became an alcoholic and drank every day. It happens. If I was on a boat for months on end without a sight of land, I would probably drink a few bottles of rum myself. And hence the saying, why is the rum's always gone? It's always sad. Very, very sad. Oh my goodness. But that's the great thing. It's like, you know, you're a pirate. You get to go on land anywhere. You basically sail where the ripe pickings are. And I actually have some sympathy for modern pirates because they're actually pretty smart, you know? And, if they do see a warship, they typically run away. A pirate does not want to deal with a regular warship now or in the past. And therefore, it is very inadvisable for anyone who chooses to be a privateer to actually assault actual warships because majority of the time you might not make it unless if you still have a full crew, which is basically crew plus some in a pirate sense, because you have to have a lot more people than you normally would. You would have to basically attack and board the enemy vessel if you want any kind of sense if you can't get away, which preferably you would be in a very, very fast ship because you're not going to have that many big guns. You might have a whole bunch of small arms, but you're not going to go toe to toe and actually make it. So, which actually some people actually prefer little speedboats to where in even the huge super tankers actually have very small crews, but most of the time the crews aren't armed. So you only need. So that's why they usually get away with a few armed guys jumping on the boat. It works out that way for them. But there's always a whole bunch of things you could do with pirates because pirates are more or less. It just works out that way. Also, as a side note, pirates on ships, the way they're organized and run is you will have the captain, the quartermaster, and the crew. Now, if typically you already have, with privateer, you already have a captain, or a regular captain, or the guy who owns the boat is there. Now, if the guy leaves, dies, or does whatever, pirates were actually one of the first democracies. Who would have thought? I mean, if you're going to have a mutiny anyway, you might as well vote, right? So, hence, the captain was always very worried about how the crew thought because you always want to make them happy. So, if a new captain has to come around, the crew would actually vote for the most capable pirate amongst them. And usually, second place would get the quartermaster spot, which some people would say the quartermaster was actually more important than the captain because he actually get to divide up the shares amongst the rest of the crew. So sometimes second place wasn't that bad. And pirates today, they more or less have to be the same way, unless you got the money to back them up. And they actually do have investors, it's a profit. It has been shown to be a profitable business, even though high risk. And I actually incline to say it would be a good thing for the U.S. government to issue letters of marque. And as everyone in the U.S. might agree to, well, some might not, some might disagree, to be a legal criminal in some people's eyes. But hey, yo ho, it's a pirate's life for me. I'll see you all on the open sea.